Welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to data science with Python. So in today's class, we are going to talk about matplotlib and learn how to create a basic matplotlib graph or chart and modify this graph or chart. So basically, this is one of the best ways that you guys can use to visualize data inside of Python. So to be able to do all this, I divided this course in four parts. So basically the first part, we are going to learn to import matplotlib. So basically it works pretty much the same way as pandas, numpy, or scipy. So things that we talked about in the past few classes. Then we are going to create a really simple graph, really create something basic. So you guys will see what it all looks like. Then I'll show you a more advanced way to be able to write everything down. So basically how usually we write down functions. So this way we are able to create not only one line inside of our graph, well, not only integrate one function inside of our graph, but have like 4, 5, 6 functions inside of our graph. So basically more than one x and one y. So you can have infinity of x's and y's. And then after that, we are going to add the titles, labels, and everything. And finally, we are going to change the style of our graph and make it more beautiful. So we are going to talk about all this inside of this class. So let's start. So basically the first thing that we are going to do is pretty simple. We want to import matplotlib to be able to work with this Python library or package. And how exactly do we import it? It's pretty simple. So we will write down import, and what we want to import is matplotlib.pyplot. So we want to import all this as PLT. So basically PLT, you can write down anything that you want, but PLT is the usual name of matplotlib.pyplot. All right, so if you don't write this, down this line of code, normally nothing would work because you didn't import matplotlib. So when everything is ready, what we will do right now, we are going to create a basic graph with just one function inside of it. So basically it's going to be one line. So we'll have one x and one y. So let's write it down. So pretty simple. The first thing that we'll do, we'll write down PLT. So we are making a reference to matplotlib by writing down PLT. And the function that we are going to use would be plot. So basically plot right here. And then we are going to write down our x's here and our y's here. So for the x's, let's say it's going to be 1, 3, and 5. And for the y's, let's say it's going to be 5, 10, and 25. So basically we have just 3 numbers. If you guys want to add more, we can add more numbers. So let's say 5, we have 10, and here let's say it's going to be 125. All right, so basically we have our numbers right here, but if we click on this little thing, it's not gonna work because we didn't wrote down the function that will allow us to print everything right here. So to be able to see this graph, what we'll need to use is the show function. So it's gonna be plt.show, and we want to see what exactly we have just created. So pretty simple, you just write down plt.show, and you will be able to see the graph that you guys have just created. So basically we can compare to what we see right here. So we have 1, and here it's going to be 1 for 5. So if 5 is right here, then we'll have 3. So 3 will be somewhere right here for 10. Then we'll have 5 for 25. So basically 5 would be somewhere here. So for 25 makes sense. And finally 10 for 125, which makes sense as well. So as you can see, this is the graph that we have just created. So if we put our cursor right here, you can see down there, everything is fine. So basically this is the first graph that we have created. All right, right now, let's say that you guys want to have more than one line. So if for those who don't understand what I'm saying, so this would be one function. So this is just one function. Let's say you guys want to have more than one function. How exactly you can do all this? So it's pretty simple. There is another way to write it down. Usually we don't write it this way. So basically this is just a presentation way. So just to present one chart or one graph. So the way that we are going to write everything down will be pretty simple. So we need our x's and our y's. So basically x right there and our y's. So let's say we have 2 functions. So it's going to be x and x1, y1. So we'll have x2 and y2. So let's write it down. So for x1, what we'll do right now, we'll just add something. So let's say, for example, we want to add, well, we want to give them numbers. So it's going to be, let's say 2, 4, and 8. And for y number 1, it's going to be 4, 8, and 24, for example. For the x number 2, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. So let's say it's going to be 3, 6, 9. And for y number 2, it's going to be, in this case, let's say 10, 15, and 30. Let's keep it like this. So as you can see, the first thing that we will do usually will be write down our, well, what we want to write down. So basically all our database will be here. So all the x values and the y values. Then next thing would be writing down the plt.plot function. So it's going to be plt.plot. And then what we want to do is show everything. So plt.plot will have x and y. And the second one will be plt.plot x2, y2. So basically the plot function will simply be the function that will allow us to work with, let's say, for example, x's and y. So basically if we want to work with x1 and y1, I will just write down x right here and y right here. Same thing right there. If I want to work with x2 and y2, I'll just write down x2 and y2. And finally, the last thing that we want to do is just show everything. So we'll write down plt.show, and we can run our app. So basically what's going to happen is that we'll see our two lines right here, so we can compare if it's what we have written. So this is exactly what we have written. So basically we have our first line right here. So for x1 and y1, it's blue. And for x2, y2, it's right there. If I change, for example, my thing right here, instead of x2, y2, I just write down x and y2, you'll see it's going to be a bit different. So as you can see, it became parallel because I'm working with the two x's that are the same. So once again, this is more in mathematics, but as you can see, it works pretty well to be able to generate a graph. All right, so right now that we have our function, next thing that we want to do is write down, give a title to our graph. And not only this, we want to give a value to x and a value to y. So basically a title for x and a title to y. So how exactly do we write all this down? It's pretty simple. So we'll just write down plt.title. So this will allow us to generate a title. So let's call it, I don't know, let's call it test. So the title of our graph will be test, and then x values, we'll call it, let's call it test x. So here we'll have plt.x label. So basically we are giving a name to x labels, to the x values. So basically we'll call it, let's call it, as I said, test x values, and plt.y labels, which would be the name of the y labels, would be test y values. So test y values. All right, so what I have just done right here, I just give a name to my axis. So basically this would be the name of my axis, and this would be the title of my chart. So everything, what I did right now is pretty simple. So I still have the same functions right here. So my functions are still the same. I just added a title and I added a axis name. So if I run everything, as you can see here, I have my chart name. So basically test. Then I have test y values, which is my y values, and test x values, which are all my x values. So as you can see, it's all pretty simple to understand. All right, next thing that we want to do is pretty simple. We want to add style to our graph. So basically our graph right now is not that cool. So it's pretty simple, pretty well basic. If we want to add a little bit of style to our graph, it's possible. There is a sub package of matplotlib called style, and we can use it. So pretty simple. We'll just go here, and we are going, so we need to import this sub package. So let's do it pretty simple. We'll write down from matplotlib. So matplotlib, we want to import style, so the sub package style. So right now we have our sub package. What we can do right now is just add some style to our graph or chart, and we can use the style that we want. So basically I have 4 styles that I can propose you. Basically they're all there are many more than 4 styles, but those are the 4 styles that are pretty simple to understand. So the function that we will use to add style to our graph is just the use function. So basically we are going to make a reference to the style sub package and the use function. So basically it's going to be style.use, and then we'll write down the name of our style. So basically let's start with one of the styles that is called BMH. So basically this is the first style that we are going to use. So right now we have added one style to our graph. So if we run everything, as you can see, the graph has another style. So basically right here you can see there are squares. It's more cool. If we don't use style, so basically if we write down classical, so it's gonna be the basic style, so classic, and we run it, you'll see it's gonna be a little bit different. So basically it's a bit different. Everything here is gray. The style is a bit different. There is another style that exists. It's called dark background. So basically we can try this one. So it's gonna be dark here, background, so background. Here we go, and we can run it. So as you can see, this is another type of style that you guys can have. So basically the style function will just allow you to have to give a certain style to your graph. So right now guys, you should be able to create your own charts with matplotlib. So as you can see, it's pretty simple. The first thing that you guys do is you import the matplotlib library. Then if you want to add some style, you just import the style sub package. Then pretty simple, you just add everything that you want right here. So you give to your X values, you give to your Y values, then you create your functions right here. So basically this would be your database. This would be where you create your function. And finally, the last part is where you will give title and the names to your axes as well to your graph, to your graph. So I hope you guys understand everything. So these are all the basics that you need to understand to be able to work with matplotlib. So that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next class.